Hello, and disclaimer, I am not a YouTuber. I don't know how to make videos. This is recorded with the screen thingy on my computer. Hopefully the sound is okay, at least. But I wanted to do something in case it could maybe help someone decide and have an opinion about film emulation presets. So I'm old. I'm almost 50. I started being interested in photography when I was a teenager, back when only film was available, and I've always preferred the look of film, but for tons of reasons that I'm not going to go into, I barely shoot film anymore, and when I do, I send it to a lab to have it scanned and developed. And I shoot digital most of the time with an EOS R. But I have been trying to emulate the look of film since 2018, I think. That's when I started. Maybe even 2016, 17, I was using silver Efex. Then I bought plenty of Mastin Labs presets, and then I bought the RNI, really nice images presets. And recently I've also tested rather quickly, because I was not entirely convinced by them. Maybe I didn't spend enough time on them, but I tested DxO Film Pack and Dehancer. So anyway, I'm going to try and show you a couple examples of comparison between actual film and the film emulation presets. So everything in green is what I actually shot on film. Then the red ones are DxO, the yellow are RNI, the blue are Mastin Labs. I only have one silver Efex because I barely use it anymore. And then I have one Dehancer because I really wasn't that much convinced by it. Anyway, let's get into it and try and show you something interesting, hopefully for you. So I'm going to start with this one. So this is the actual film that I shot. This is HP5 shot at ISO 800, so pushed one stop. And this on the left is the untouched scan from the lab, and this is my version of it because I wanted something a lot more contrasty. But you can, well, there it is, you can see the grain and everything. So that's the original image, and that's my interpretation of it. And we're going to look at, let's start with the answer just for fun, because I really was not convinced by the answer. You can see a little difference because the digital shots were made with a 50mm f1.8 RF, and this was shot with a 35mm f2, the non-IS version, on film. But you can see that it rendered the colors in a very different way. Just obviously I forgot to do something. I wanted to show you the original images. Oh well, never mind. This tractor was bright red and this was yellow. here. So it rendered the colors really differently, and then I tried to, I think I used the grain from Dehancer, which does not really convince me. Mostly here you can see that there's barely anything visible, whereas on film you can see a lot more grain in this gray area here, in my opinion. And then, yeah, I just wasn't convinced by the answer, but I admit I didn't spend a lot of time in it, and it's probably just as good as any other preset, or just as bad, depending on what you think about presets. Anyway, actually, if you want to see with the original scan, you can see the difference here. Then we're going to look at DxO next, probably. So I did several tests. Oops, I included one that should not be there. Sorry. Yeah, there it is. So I think this one is probably my original image. And it didn't take out the Dehancer for some reason. There we go. So which one is my lab untouched? See, the thing is, if you do not have anything to compare it to, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to tell. So, can I do that? No, it doesn't work. Anyway, oh yes, I can see the colors. Great. This will help us. So this is my original. You see how much I know about Lightroom. I've been using it for years and years and years, but I never made comparisons like this. Anyway, so original scan, my retouched version, and then the different DxO tests I did. So this was the standard HP5, which looks really different again in terms of color. The contrast is okay, but, and these are the tests I made to try and make it look like it. So I tweaked it a lot, and this one was actually really close. This was my last test, I think, and I tweaked the colors and I tweaked a lot of things, and I managed to make it look pretty good, pretty close to the original one. But otherwise, with the standard color, it was not really anywhere close to what I wanted. But it's good. I mean, if you don't have the reference image, yeah, it looks pretty good. Then, if you want to look at Mastin Labs, perhaps, I think I only did one, actually. So this is the Mastin Labs. Again, it renders the red a bit differently. This is untouched. This is the Mastin Labs. Oh no, maybe I probably retouched it. I tried to make it look, I probably pulled down the blacks to make it look like pushed film. The original one must have been pretty close, because Mastin Labs, for the black and white, it is actually fairly close to half film, how HP5 renders the colors. So it was pretty good too. And then for the RNI, I did a lot of them because I mostly use RNI nowadays, and yeah, for example, if you get these, this is the RNI HP5 untouched. So this is the standard, what really nice images will give you. Not my images, but the presets. And then I use an overlay because for grain, it's actual film grain that I shot and scanned. And I use an overlay in Photoshop because that way I don't get it in the black areas, and I get it in the grays the way it's the way it's supposed to be, and I don't really get it in the whites, which is also, you can see a faint little bit of it. There's actually more on the actual film, but there's much less grain in the brightest part of the image, usually on film, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, I did a lot of tests. Like I can show you what they look like. These are my version, then the two green ones, and these are all the tests I did. So again, if you don't have anything to compare it to, everything is fine. Like, it looks okay to me. It will never look like film. None of these film emulation presets will ever look or behave. Actually, the digital files will not behave the way a film scan behaves. Like if you ever retouched a film scan, it really works differently than a digital image that you're retouching. The way when you pull down the highlights or the blacks, it does not react in the same way as a digital image does. But anyway, that would be the take of it if you want to stop there and not watch the entire thing. The takeaway is it will never look like film, but it usually looks pretty good anyway. So this was one test. I can show you this one because I think this one is pretty interesting. So this is the lab scan untouched, and this is my version with a little bit of contrast, a bit of an S-curve, a little bit, because I wanted those to be really dark. But there it is, and if you compare it to Mastin Labs, for example, which is here, you can see that the colors, this one has not been retouched. It's been retouched anyway. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is the Mastin Labs version with some tweaks to contrast, probably, because the original black and white HP5 from Mastin Labs is not very contrasty. It's a bit like that, actually. It's very close. The black and whites from Mastin Labs are really close to what you get on film most of the time. At least for HP5, for Tri-X, they're pretty good presets. I used them for years before I switched to RNI, and then I use my own presets that I tweaked over time. But the Mastin Labs version is pretty good here. I don't think I have any other test for this one. Nope, I don't. So you only get Mastin Labs, but Mastin Labs is good. This one is interesting also. What did I do? This was, so this is the untouched lab scan. This is my version of it. Again, a lot more contrasty. But if you compare it to DxO, I mean, it's not bad. Again, this is shot with the 85 and this was shot with the, probably the 35, I think, again. I don't think I switched lenses. So it's a different perspective, but this is, again, a grain overlay. I went a bit too heavy on it. But anyway, you can see it doesn't look the same, obviously, but it's not bad. I don't think any of these film emulations are really bad per se. They're just never gonna look the way film does in reality. And I don't want to bore you too much with other examples. Maybe if you want to look at this one, just for fun. So these two will be RNI, and the blue is Mastin Labs. So this is the original image. This was shot on a Rolleicord 5, HP5 at 800 again. And then I shot these. These are RNI presets. So this one is the HP5, and this one is this one is the HP5, and the other one is Delta 800, and this is the Mastin Labs version. So if you want to have a look at it more closely, obviously it's not at all the same perspective, but yeah, you can see the grain here. And this is the grain that Mastin Labs, it's when you select HP5, it gives you the grain automatically. And you can see that there's grain pretty much everywhere, which doesn't look super natural, because generally on film, like I said, you don't have much grain in the dark areas. You have it on the lighter grays. But anyway, so this is Mastin Labs, and if you want to compare it to RNI, it's not exactly the same, but I mean, can you really tell for black and white? So many parameters. I now use mostly this one, which is supposed to be Delta 800, and I really like the way it looks, that preset. I tweaked it a little bit and made my own presets out of it, but I really like that Delta 800. Anyway, I've got other examples, but they're pretty much all the same thing. You're going to see that it never looks exactly the way it does on film. So this is a FP4 at 250, so pushed one stop, and this is Mastin Labs. They don't have HP5, so it's the Pan-F version. It gives you the grain supposedly of Pan-F. Oh, that's RNI. Sorry, I made a mistake. I'm making a lot of mistakes in this. Where is the original one? Oh, it's there. Okay. Now we can see better. So this is the actual one. This is film. So FP4 at 250. And then you have different versions here, RNI and Mastin Labs. It was not shot on the same day. You can see that day it was open and there it was closed, so you don't see the blacks in the same way, but you get the idea. It's never exactly 100% the same, but if I were to show you one just without a comparison, I don't know if you could really tell. And then to finish off, I'm gonna show you these. So this is Kodak Gold. Again, it's from the lab, developed and scanned. I think usually from what I've seen in videos on YouTube, using Negative Lab Pro and doing it yourself gives you much better results than most labs. And the lab I'm using is excellent. It's a great lab in France. Because I'm French, sorry for that. But it's a great lab, but from what I've seen, Negative Lab Pro always looks better than what people get from even good labs. So anyway, so this was Kodak Gold, and then if you compare it to the Mastin Labs, so Mastin Labs is a lot more contrasty when it comes to color. All their presets are for color, are very contrasty. Again, this was not shot on the same day. You can see it with blue sky here and overcast. But I tried to position myself roughly in the same place. And this was the same lens, the 35 f2. But anyway, a lot more contrasty and punchy for Mastin Labs. And I'm going to put them all together just not to take too much of your time, but this is the real Kodak Gold, this is Mastin Labs. These are different presets in RNI, so this is gold, I think it's gold 100 EV plus, and this is gold 200, which really looks different, the one from RNI. These are different gold presets from RNI, but none of them, I mean, all of them are pretty decent generally, but it never looks great to me for color. I tend to retouch most of my images in black and white, but so yeah, there you have it. This is a little bit of a comparison. I hope it helps you. Basically, the thing is, it will never look like film. Even film will look different depending on how you process and scan it, or print it, if you print it. So all of these film emulations, if you like them, it's never going to be exactly the same, but I don't think any of them is really bad. I was really not convinced with Dehancer at all, even for color. I did some tests in color on this one too. Maybe I did not delete them. Yeah, I did a lot of tests here. On this picture, and I wasn't convinced by any of them, but I didn't keep the name, so you know, I can't really tell you which is which. But this is the answer, because there's the logo, and that was probably gold 200 according to the answer, and it looks pretty bad to me. The punchier one here is probably Mastin Labs. That's probably Mastin Labs Fuji preset, and these are probably from RNI, different tests I did, but I never get what I want in color from digital. I'm never satisfied. Whichever preset I use, they never look good to me. That's why I tend to do most of what I shoot in black and white, because I prefer it. Oh yeah, so you can see that's the original. That's the, where is it? Where's the original one? There it is. So that's what it looks like. That's the raw file. So it was really red and yellow. And then I can show you actually directly here. So the good thing about RNI is you get tons of presets, like tons of them. It's too much even for me. You can see here, these are the ones I use. Some of them are mine, and then some of them are from, only this one is from Mastin Labs, and the others are from RNI. And this is all I use. I never go, because otherwise you can spend hours comparing each version of them, and if you're like me, someone who's having a hard time deciding, you're going to spend hours trying to find the right one that looks good to your eyes. But you get plenty of them. That's the good or bad thing, depending on who you are. But yeah, like if you look at Kodak Gold, I don't know, this doesn't look like Kodak Gold to me. Usually the Kodak Gold 200 EV Plus is a lot better. See, that's the 200, and then that's the EV Plus. But you get a ton of them, and you get that toolkit, which is pretty neat. I like this about RNI. You get analog softness, which I use sometimes when I use the RF lenses, because they're so sharp and contrasty. So you get analog softness a little bit more. Obviously, I don't use the +4 because it's blurry. The +1 just softens it just a little bit, and I like it. Then you get fade if you want. You get grain, which I never use because, like I said, I use overlay, contrast, the vignette, different kinds of vignette, vintage lens, which changes a few things. That's pretty cool about RNI too. And then if you look at the gold version of Mastin Labs, this is it. Like, boom. It's ultra punchy, contrasty. The greens are from another planet compared to the raw file. The hectare is even more punchy and over the top. So that's Kodak Everyday Original. The Portra, I've never been really satisfied except by the Portra 800, which usually I'm okay with that one. But again, I would probably dial down the saturation a little bit because it looks crazy to me. The Portra 160, I've never been convinced by it either. And the Portra 400 is like, I don't know, it's not Portra. At least I don't think so. It really looks so punchy and contrasty. That's one of the things I don't like anymore about Mastin Labs, is how punchy every one of them are. I mean, if you like it, just go for it, but I don't think it's very film-like. The Fujis are much better in my opinion. This is Pro 400H. This is the 400H blue, which you can see the difference in how it renders the green. That's the only thing it does. It just tweaks the green towards very desaturated bluish one. The rest of the image is untouched. Then 160NS I've never used, and 800Z I've never used either. And then you get those cool things. That's what's cool about Mastin Labs, is those presets here. So, for example, if I use, let's say I want to use color gold, then you get all hard, highlight soft, shadows hard, shadows soft, and all soft. And that's pretty neat, because you can, sometimes it really helps. I don't use that anymore, but everything in Mastin Labs is done to get a quick edit as quick as you can without having anything else to do. So you pick an image, you select the white balance, you select the kind of film you want, and then if you want more contrast, you take all hard. If you want less, you take all soft, highlight hard, etc. And then you're done. There's lens correction if you want to, grain if you want to, and everything is baked in, and in 2 minutes you're done. I mean 2 seconds mostly, almost 20 seconds, and basically you're supposed to be done. I don't use them pretty much at all anymore. They're good. It's nothing against them, it's just not my style anymore. I used them a ton when I started. This was the only presets I was using at the time. And the black and white ones I still really like. So that's HP5, and as you can see, it's pretty close, if you remember, to what my actual scan looked like. The one that was unretouched from the lab. If I go back to it quickly, because it's not in there. Quick. Yeah, that was the lab untouched. And memorize it, see it, okay. And then if we get back down to, it was at the start actually. No, yes, no. It was not at the start. It was here. Yeah, you can see it's pretty close. Really, for black and white, the Mastin Labs presets are really accurate, in my opinion, to how the film renders colors. So I used HP5, and I use them a lot. I still like them, but I don't use them as much. Tri-X I use from time to time because it's really punchy, and for some images it works well, but otherwise I use RNI most of the time. So there it is. If you're undecided, I don't think anyone is better than the other. You get a lot more simulations from RNI, obviously, probably almost too much. You also get instant film, which I've shot quite a bit of Polaroid, and to me it doesn't look like 600 film. But it can be fun on some images. You get slide, which is pretty cool, although the Provia 100 is like crazy. I don't think Provia, I think Provia was like the one truer to real life, and that's really not the case here. Like you can see the Velvia is even less contrasty and punchy than the Provia, which is weird in my opinion. And then you get vintage, which is, wait a second, I need to reset this. Because Mastin Labs kind of tweaks certain things that you have to change afterwards. But if you get back to the Provia 100, it's still very contrasty, and it's still a lot more contrasty than and punchy than the Velvia 50, which is weird in my opinion, or even the Velvia 100. But you get slide film, which is pretty cool. You get a ton of them too. And then vintage, which is fun a little bit. I don't use them, but I think I have one images that work really well with one of those. One images out of the thousands I've shot. So anyway, there you have it about presets. They won't look like film. They save you a lot of time once you get to know them, in my opinion. If you don't want to do things yourself, I mean, you'll find everything you need with whatever film simulation you buy. Nowadays I have tweaked some of the presets, and I use my own presets, and I add a grain overlay on top, and that's basically all I do. I generally, in 95-99% of cases, except from cropping, I do not retouch the content of my images. I just use the preset, and that's it. And the 1% exception is for for some portraits sometimes, because I want people to look their best. And so in some cases, but it's quite rare, I will do a little bit of retouching. But other than that, like you can see even in those, I did not do any retouching on the face. Obviously, this one has too much grain. I added too much grain, but I didn't do any retouching on the skin or anything. Yeah. Anyway, I hope maybe that was useful for you. If you happen to stumble upon this video, which I doubt, but anyway, I wish you a very good day. Bye bye.